And the last speaker for today will be Professor Eero Vasar from the University of Tartu. He is also the head of the Center of Excellence for Translational Medicine, and perhaps that's why he has called or given the heading of his presentation very close to the fine arts. We know that there is a film lost in translation. And Professor Vasar is also the member of the evaluation committee of Estonian Research Council, which is having the burden of making very important decisions on the research funding in Estonia. Please, the floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished audience, I think that excellence has been looked in a very different positions, and of course I would have another kind of position. And starting from this first slide, I would like to just remind you that excellence has been here already in the 19th century, like Emil Kraepelin, father of modern psychiatry, Oswald Smedeberg, father of modern pharmacology, Professor Erich Arnak, who introduced the research of apomorphine and demonstrated the central effects of these drugs. 100 years later it was shown that this drug can make better the signs of Parkinson's disease. And finally, Peter Hermann Stillmark, who commenced his PhD thesis in exactly 125 years ago. And it was a starting point of lectinology, and I think many of you probably know that it was kind of a starting point of immunological approaches. At least in the 19th century, there's a very good competence of neuroimmunology in Tartu. And this is just a few words about the history, but I'm going to back history again if we are talking about translational medicine. Of course, I'm not going to talk about this movie, as Andres said, 2003, Sofia Coppola, Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson playing major roles in this movie. What is a translational medicine? I think translational medicine has been around all the time, but today there are several things why we would like to stress it more, why we would like to get it working. And here is a kind of a definition. And there are certain steps like from discovery, from bench to bedside, when approved application and guidelines, dissemination, outcomes and evaluation. But what is not mentioned in many cases, but there is another possibility that we go from bedside to bench, from one patient to the basic science. And this is showing why this approach is necessary. This is a translational gap. We can see what happened with NIH grants and what kind of degree these major grant holders had. Here is, you see that MD, PhDs are really down and PhDs are much up. And here is how the expenditures for pharmaceutical companies went up and what happened with new molecules. It went really down. And someone has even tried to figure out that, and he found that it takes some 70 years from discovery to implementation, and it's a really long time. And this is how many people want to see it. There is a bench, there is a bedside, and there is a death valley. And how to cross this death valley, that's a major question. Now, before going, I made another introduction. Once upon a time I had to talk about doctoral studies in Estonia, and I gave the example about the number of scientists in population. I think that was a pretty good time, and I think things could say that the times were satisfactory. I think it means good, of course. And I think in that time Finland was the country where the number of scientists was closest to the number of patients suffering from schizophrenia, whatever it does mean. And I think Estonia has taken some steps to avoid that. Number one, not to increase the science funding, and number two, even trying to cut down all these things. And now I would like to go to some history, the history of translational medicine. Emil Kraepelin was here as a professor of psychiatry between 1886 and 1891, and then when he arrived here he started immediately to work with patients, and I think 1887 is the starting point of his approach to a classification of psychiatric disorders. And since Peter Tulviste is not here, there is an anecdote about Kraepelin. Kraepelin used to go to the visits to other places. Once upon a time he went to the Constantinople, and local doctors demonstrated him to the patient, and they claimed that this guy is talking an existing language. And they are very disappointed when Kraepelin started to speak with this guy with the same language, and it happened to be Estonian. And actually, I think it was thousands of different forms of madness, but Kraepelin was the first one who really put things together, and he called it dementia praecox. And this is, again, building opened 125 years ago. It's a new anatomical theatre, but this is now changed. It's the seat of psychology. Jüri Allik is there, not Emil Kraepelin anymore. Emil Kraepelin did his psychopharmacology work in this building, and there is a publication, The Origin of Psychopharmacology. There are 3 cities, Leipzig, Dortmund, and Heidelberg. And definitely this building was there. And here is a book. And this is another example of a translational medicine. But the approach, another translation approach came from Eugen Bleuler. He said that it was not the dementia, he called it schizophrenia, and he claimed the existence of positive and negative symptoms. And from him, the 4 A's of schizophrenia come: disturbance of association, affect, ambivalence, and autistic isolation. And schizophrenia is probably most devastating suffering of humankind. It strikes around 1% of population, no matter of background, but there are still 2 to 3% of people who are having so-called schizotypal personality disorder, and this can be a source when things are going bad, from where the number of patients will go up, because we can see that some factors may increase the prevalence of this disease in the community, and we will reach to that later on. And here we would like to stress the really negative impact of psychiatric disorders in the European Union. It's publication in 2011, and you can